Resident Evil, the franchise that brought survival horror to life. Since 1996, it has been the standard bearer for its genre, twisting and changing with the times like the horrifying creatures created by the T-Virus. Mutating its way from tank-controlled survival horror to action-oriented shooter, and in its most recent iteration, a first-person claustrophobic psychological horror with VR support. This franchise has come a long way and hit many roadblocks, so let's take a look back at the series and see how it has earned its reputation as some of the best and worst games of modern times. 1993. Development begins in Resident Evil. Originally inspired by a horror title named Sweet Home, Tokuro Fujiwara, creator of Sweet Home, tasked Shinji Mikami with creating an updated version of this previous Capcom title, taking its haunted mansion setting and puzzle-based mystery to a more contemporary experience. Many aspects of the core Resident Evil mechanics owes itself to Sweet Home. These include door loading screens, character-specific items, inventory management, multiple endings based on characters that are still alive, and much more. For the first 6 months, Mikami spent his time alone coming up with concept art and writing a portion of the script, drawing inspiration for the mansion's aesthetic from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Initially conceived to be based more in the supernatural, Mikami instead opted for a more Americanized zombie horror style, taking its influence from the godfather of zombies, George A. Romero. In these early stages, the game was still envisioned to be a first-person title, once again taking its influence from Sweet Home, specifically the combat system, but that would change when Mikami saw 1992's Alone in the Dark. Its use of fixed camera angles plus the PlayStation's limited hardware convinced Mikami that the switch from first to third person was the right choice to make. Mikami was hesitant about this change at first, fearing the change in perspective would ruin immersion. He came around to the idea when realizing that fixed camera angles allowed for pre-rendered environments, which would allow for a much richer detail. Early prototypes of the game were shown to have a co-op mode, but this feature was dropped due to the technical limitations. Interestingly enough, a co-op feature was brought back for the DS release of the game. Also shown were alternative areas of the game, such as a graveyard, which was later used for the remake, as well as a guest house, which later became the guardhouse in the final project. Early character development included 2 characters that were later replaced by Rebecca Chambers and Barry Burton. They were to be Dewey, an African-American character set to be the comic relief, as well as a cyborg named Gelzer? The majority of development was done with Silicon Graphics hardware using the soft image software. The PlayStation was chosen as the platform for release due to things such as the amount of polygons able to be rendered, as well as I'm sure for memory reasons such as disk space. The game would eventually be ported to multiple platforms, but we'll get to that later. Possibly the most infamous part of this game's development was the live-action FMVs. Joseph! The live-action segments were shot in Japan, with American actors playing the characters as well as voicing their roles in the game. The core reason why these performances are so historically terrible is simply this. The Japanese staff had a poor understanding of English and didn't realise how bad it was. Kind of ironic since there was originally a Japanese dialogue recording, but Mikami deemed the performances too poor and decided that non-English releases would simply be captioned. The opening FMV was edited and heavily censored depending on the region it was released in. Japan had the full uncensored version, but for its North American and European release, certain parts were changed. First of all, it was changed to black and white to downplay the blood. Then there were shots of corpses that were changed from newspaper clippings, then a graphic headshot of a Cerberus was taken out, and finally, in the roll call at the end, Chris originally lit up a cigarette, but this was removed. The director's cut of the game promised to have the full uncensored version, but due to an error in production, the game was shipped with the still censored version. Other edits were made to the famous first zombie scene. Uncut, you see Kenneth's head fall off. Nice. Other localization changes were made to the game. Now, most people know this, but Resident Evil was named Biohazard in Japan, but was changed to Resident Evil due to conflicts with copyrights, usually attributed solely to the metal band also known as Biohazard. Certain changes in gameplay were also made. This includes disabling the auto-aim function, decreasing the amount of ink ribbons available, as well as a difficulty increase to combat people renting the game and finishing it in a single weekend. Capcom America also planned to take away the inventory connectivity, which was later done for Resident Evil 0, as well as certain difficulty settings in the remake. So with all that out of the way, March 22nd, 1996, Resident Evil is released, but set in the distant future of July 1998. STAR's Alpha team are sent to the Arklay Mountains to investigate the disappearance of STAR's Bravo team that were sent to find the cause of a spate of recent murders. On arrival, the team is ambushed by a bunch of hellhounds that sound exactly like the Dragonzord. Losing Joseph to the pack of beasts and the pilot leaving them, they run for a nearby house for cover. Now, I will be doing this from Jill's perspective, as she is the canon run of this game in my opinion. Not that this is canon anymore. Somehow, even though he was right there, Chris has gone missing. We have some cheesy dialogue about not opening doors when a gunshot is heard. Jill and Barry go to investigate. Finding a puddle of blood that we hope isn't Chris's blood, Jill stumbles upon the horror that will soon become their living nightmare. Of course, the brave STARS member does what needs to be done. Run the fuck away! Running back to Barry, he bravely takes out the monster, and we decide to return to Wesker. But lo and behold, he's buggered off. After the exhaustive search, looking under the stairs, God's sake, Jill, he's an elite police officer, not Harry Potter! The gang decide to split up and investigate the mansion, because safety in numbers is highly overrated. And thus begins our investigation. Barry Beardman disappears, but not before giving the master of unlocking a lockpick. Why didn't she already have one? Now we are left to our own devices in all our tank-controlled glory. We look around the house and find out that some paranoid person has locked most of the doors, so we look for keys, and slowly piece together that we are in some madman's puzzle based around 4 crests. So in our search for these 4 crests, we'll have to deal with a bunch of beasties. Along the way, we bump into Barry a couple of times, notoriously saving us from a Jill sandwich. Always sounded like Jiggle to me. Now we have the shotgun, totally worth almost dying. Fuck you, zombie heads! We learn to mix magic herbs that can heal any wound. Barry gives us a really powerful weapon, especially against living things. But where's the gun part, Barry? Well, it's in the hands of already dead STARS member, Forrest. Poor Forrest. Then we play some piano, do some weird puzzles. Read some diary entries and start to piece together that some shady shit was going down. Some shady, itchy, tasty shit. So we're getting a grasp on the enemies, zombies, and zombie dogs, and whatever the fuck this thing is, and then suddenly...
Richard! What happened?
It's our boy Richard! He's got himself well mashed up. Looks like we're gonna have to give him a hand. Now we're in the race to save Richard's life, but all we get is a broken radio. Oh, and a giant snake fight? I wonder if he wants to be our mascot. But what is this? Poisoned? Fade to black. Mysterious bird. Barry saves us. Is it really a mystery? Right, so now we have our crest, we head out back, put down some poppers, avoid some snakes, at least these ones are normal sized, and find our way to a rundown guardhouse. Get strangled by a rogue vine, totally normal, and then boom, my worst nightmare. Giant spiders. To hell with them. While dossing around, we find reports of a big old plant, and a chemical storage room with things to kill it with. But the game is a big old tease. It won't let you actually mix anything up until you find the file about it. So we gotta find that. Only key we have leads us to the basement, so we push some magic floaty boxes to make a bridge, head waist deep into water, and suddenly, sharks! No big deal! Kind of literally, really. They're easy to outrun. I'm already at the door. So we drain the water. Poor sharks. Go to the room next door and find the last dormitory key. We also spy another room and find the roots for this Plant 42 character. Heading back up to dormitory room 3, we find the VJolt report, and now another Barry related choice. So this seems like a good time to talk about that. Remember Barry saving us from being a Jill sandwich? Well, that only happened because we went to that room in the correct order. Basically, in the mansion, there are 2 sets of Barry encounters, the shotgun / acid rounds, or the bazooka / fish tank. So it breaks down like this. Go straight for the shotgun, then pick up the chemical and head back to the main hall, and you get the shotgun acid round scenario. Go into any room that isn't the 2nd floor dining room, and then go to the forest balcony. You get a different scene with Barry, as well as one in another room with the fish tank in it. Still with me? Right, so if you met Barry and he gave you acid rounds, and then get poisoned by yawn, he will save you by taking you to the serum room. But if you did the fish tank set, then you will overhear Barry talking to someone in the dormitory. Going back to the present, we have a choice. Mix the VJolt and put it on the roots, or not. If you get your weed killer on and go to the Plant 42 room, you'll have a single fight with it. Forgo putting the VJolt on the roots, go to the plant room, have a fight with Plant 42, but it will come back to life. Grab Jill, and Barry will come to the rescue with a flamethrower. That is unless you overheard Barry talking to someone, in which case, use the VJolt for one fight, don't use it and have to fight it twice. Jesus. That was fun to explain. More on that story later. So however you choose to deal with all that malarkey, we grabbed the key in the fireplace. Just so happens that there were a couple rooms back in the mansion that could do with a good keying. So heading back there, we bump into Wesker. Fuck has he been? Conveniently had to do one? Not suspicious at all, mate. Well, back in the mansion now. This should be easy. Already killed everything, right? Nope. Hunters. God damn hunters. These little shits are what the ink ribbons were truly invented for. These green gits are an insta-death waiting to happen. More agile than anything we've encountered so far, they slash at your ankles, and the moment your health goes from green fine, you're in range of a lunging decapitation. Or they can just catch your ass at a pincer and stunlock you into a frustrating death. These fuckers scared me shitless as a kid, and to this day are the only reason I ever saved the game. Hate you guys. So with this key, we can go into the last couple of rooms. Conveniently, there's one right as we come back in, and it contains the Doom book. But we'll worry about that later. So, on to door number 2. Hope there isn't a snake hanging around in there. Just had to go and say it. It's almost like I've played the game before. Right, well, kill that thing permanent like. Yeah, you better, melt. But it's busted a hole in the floor. Barry shows up again, casually ignores the giant melting snake, and ropes us down. But the Butterfingers drops the rope. Here's a top tip from me to you. Wait for Barry to come back. It's necessary to get the best ending in the game. Doing this does negate an entire area of the game, but oh well, saves on the ammunition. So once Barry comes back with a new piece of rope, we climb out and it gives us a keypad code. And we can use this to go through a door that the game has hardlocked us out of up until this point. And this is only if you waited for Barry to come back. Going through that door, we find a storage room with a battery in it. And the game tells us to go out back and use it on a lift. So we start to make our way back outside, having to have a fight with some hunters along the way, and then we put the battery in the lift. Easy popper. Stop the water flow we caused when we first came down here, and now we can go underground. Simple, right? So we head down the ladder and there's 2 routes we can choose. One of them has a really long drop. Oh god, we need another crank. Thus begins Resident Evil's fetish for cranking. Old Barry shows up and here's our next Barry choice. He offers to watch our backs. Only if you let him. Do you trust him at this point? He is looking proper shady. Ah, fuck it. He did save us from Audrey too. He deserves a chance. I mean, come on. It's Baza! Anyway, going along, Barry validates our choice by double tapping a hunter for us. Exploring the caves together, we bump into Enrico, leader of Bravo team. It gives us the lowdown that someone is a traitor. That file in the red jewel room. Then he gets shot. But who can this be? Anyway, we continue our journey through the caves, blow off some hunters' arms, eat it, play some Indiana Jones, and then my worst nightmare part 2, an even bigger bloody spider. No running away this time, lads. Ugh, he just gozzed on us, wreck his shit, and somehow not get poisoned. But no, the mucky bugger has webbed up the door. Well, since the only item box in the cave is beyond this door, I guess we should thank our lucky stars. There's a knife right here. See what I did there? After another hard cranking puzzle, we find Doom Book 2. Who wants this on their daily commute? And head to the elevator that we ignored and come out by a giant fountain. This fountain seems to want some medals. Now's the time for the Doom Books to play their role. Checking them, we find medals just chilling inside. Using the medallions, the fountain drains to reveal a secret elevator. Seriously, who needs this every morning on the way to work? A secret lab! Dicking around, we have to find someone's login to unlock some electronically sealed doors. John, Ada, Mole. Remember these names. Hey, a slide reel. Holiday slides, anyone? Well, start at the top and work our way down. Hey up, this room has a slide projector. Hey, that guy looks a lot like Wesker. Nah, probably nothing. Let's look at this file. A. Wesker. Common name. Reveal the secret key and move out. Investigating the other locked rooms, we find these weird terminals that want MO discs. You remember the MO discs, right? Of course not. I deliberately left them out to make a point. There are 3 of these discs, and they could be quite missable for a first timer. The first is in the mansion, the second behind an Indiana Jones boulder, and the third outside the projector room. Hope you weren't using this as a guide. Remember, mo discs, mo problems. Yes, I just made that joke. It was all worth it though, because it's Chris! Finally found the son of a bitch. While we've been off facing untold horrors, he's been sat on his arse doing nothing. Well, his cell door is locked, so we're gonna have to find a way to unlock it. Well, onto the elevator, but the power is out. Best get the power back on. Go into the power room and what the fuck are these? Got crazy bug people swinging at us from the ceiling. Just run past these oiks and shoot any that get a bit tasty. Now time to get up this elevator. Well, Barry's finally caught up to us. He always has the best timing. Let's go together.
Back with the boys again.
But what's this? Wesker? Barry pointing a gun at me? Son of a bitch. So it was him all along. It was him in that photo, and that a Wesker in that file was this Wesker. Who would have guessed it? Well, I guess now we understand Barry's motivations. Mr. Always Wears Glasses has his family hostage. What a scumbag. Big old classic villain explains his diabolical plot, but then sudden face turn. Barry knocks out Wesker, and we decide to go see what all the fuss was about. Because you know, stars. Damn! What is this Frankenstein's monster of a... well, monster. Barry eats a big one and shits on. Battle the Beast. This was trickier than I remember. Well, with Tyrant taking a dirt nap, best check Barry. He's miraculously fine. Abs of literal steel apparently. Time to get out of Dodge because the self-destruct system has been activated and Wesker is gone. Barry goes on ahead. We'd best pick up Chris along the way. He runs off too. Do I stank a zombie or something? We all head for the helipad, but fuck. The Tyrant's back. Time for Chris and Barry to play the hero. We go up the elevator and then BAM! From out of nowhere, the Tyrant's back. Dance around the big guy taking pot shots at him, but holy shit, this is much tougher than I remember. At this point, I should probably point out that over the years, I've gotten used to playing the director's cut version of the game, and it seems the OG game really is living up to that difficulty increase. Thanks Capcom of America. Shit, out of health items, almost out of ammo. Oh god, the timer is getting close to zero. Oh, that's gotta hurt. But then Deus Ex rocket launcher falls from the heavens. Fuck, time's running out. Multi-camera shot, boom. Ain't no getting up from that. Get on the chopper and fuck off out of here, destroying the lab and all the zombies as we go. Cue the cheesy music and we're done. And that's it. Best game ever, right? Well, for as much as I love the game, let's have a look at some of its foibles. Now, like I said, I've let myself get soft playing the director's cut and having its lovely auto-aim function, which is sorely needed in this type of game. I mean, for God's sake, we're in a 3D space with fixed camera angles. Perspective is not on our side. All the times I missed when I thought it was aiming right at my foes, Capcom of America, this was truly a dick move. Then there's the big plot hole cheat right at the beginning of the game. What the fuck happened to Chris? Now we know that Wesker took him captive, but how did he do that? We were all running towards the house from the Cerberus, we reached the door, and he's just gone. Did Wesker just quickly karate chop him unconscious and hide him in a bush outside? And how would the dogs not eat him? They were clearly hanging around outside the door even well after we reached the mansion. Another wasted part of the game is the sharks, or as they're named in the game, Neptunes. This was a case of reach exceeding grasp, I think. It was a cool idea that was much better realised in the remake, but the original is quite lackluster. Now for some more common complaints people have about the game. The doors. Now this has never bothered me, but the slowing of the pace really ticks some people off. I think it is a perfectly adequate way of solving the loading screen question. I mean, it was that or a screen that simply said loading, and that would really screw with immersion, which, as we know from the beginning of this video, was something Mikami was concerned about. Personally, I subscribe to the idea that the doors are a good way of creating tension. Who knows what could be on the other side of this door? Then we have the inventory system. I've often heard people complain that the "will you pick up X" text as being redundant. Of course I want to pick it up, that is why I clicked on it. But since part of the survival horror element is an inventory management system, it's a good idea to have a choice. Why you open a desk and it only has an ink ribbon in it? Then you're lumbered with ink ribbon. You see, the real issue with picking up items is how slow the scroll speed on the text is. God, it takes longer than it should. This is why people usually play the Japanese version for speedruns, because the on-screen text scrolls by a lot quicker. And of course, as we mentioned before, the cheesy dialogue. Now, I explained why it got through the development process, but my god, you'd think the actors might have had enough self-awareness to know to ask for another take or two. The script itself aside, I think Barry's performance was actually mostly pretty fine. It's just weird how out of context some lines feel, like Barry's,
"Whoa, this hall is dangerous."
when you don't ever fight anything in that hall. The game was not expected to do much in sales, as the developers weren't sure if horror games could really make a dent in the market. Fujiwara was estimating about 200,000 in sales, but Resident Evil was a hit, quickly becoming the best-selling game for PlayStation at the time. The original version having sold over 2.7 million copies, and garnering high reviews from most outlets of the day, and currently standing at 91 out of 100 on Metacritic. So even with all the issues, I still love this game and have been coming back to it time and time again since I first played it when I was 8. Parenting, am I right? The design of the rooms are mostly all quite distinct from each other. The score is an instant nostalgia for me, creating a creepy atmosphere but with a slight hint of cheese, like classic horror B movies. I really do not understand why they felt that they had to change it for the director's cut. But we'll get there next time. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to come back as I plan to do this for pretty much every game in the series. Click subscribe to enter this nightmare, or check out the other videos we have. We have other videos, right?